What if one of the best things you could do on your Banff trip was actually to slow down? Not rush to another viewpoint, not squeeze in one more lake, not check another thing off your list. Just step into the forest, put your phone away, and actually notice where you are. Welcome back to the Banff Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Celine Brewer, a local Canmore resident living the mountain life all year long. I help travelers like you plan unforgettable trips to Banff, Lake Louise, Moraine Lake, Jasper, and the Canadian Rockies. In this episode, I'm joined by Scott from Among the Trees to talk about forest bathing and forest therapy in Canmore and Banff. Scott is the founder of Among the Trees and a hiking guide based in the Canadian Rockies, living in Canmore. He leads guests beyond the typical tourist experiences to discover hidden trails, wildlife, mountain stories, and meaningful connections with nature. His passion is helping people explore and connect in the Rockies, not just as a destination, but as an adventure that stays with them long after they leave. Now, if you're wondering what forest bathing actually means, don't worry, we get into it right away. This is such a good conversation for anyone who feels like Banff planning can become a little too much. There are so many places to see here, but it's easy to end up rushing from lake to lake, viewpoint to viewpoint, and activity to activity without ever really giving yourself time to take it all in. Scott shares what forest bathing actually looks like, who it's for, why you don't need to be spiritual or especially outdoorsy to enjoy it, and how a guided forest therapy walk can help you experience the Rockies in a completely different way. So if your Banff itinerary is starting to feel a little too packed, this episode might be exactly the reminder you need.
Awesome.
Welcome, Scott. I'm so excited to have you join me here today and share everything about Among the Trees with the listeners.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be on the podcast, Lynn.
All right, well, why don't we start? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what led you to start Among the Trees?
Yeah, so I've been living in Canmore for about 5 years consistently. Always been drawn to the mountains and have wanted to be out this way in the Rocky Mountains in some capacity. And I started guiding about 4.5 years ago. And so I'm able to take people on really cool hiking adventures in the Rockies, the Banff, Canmore area, all the national parks. And somewhere in there, I started to discover bathing or forest therapy and started to kind of check out that practice and brought it into my guiding practice. And I started Among the Trees about just over a year ago. And we are able to take people hiking and also offer forest bathing. And then I also offer some wildlife talks as well.
Nice, nice. Uh, we're gonna get more into forest bathing and what that is, because I'm sure people are like, "I'm sorry, what now? Forest
Exactly.
what now?" So we'll get
Yeah.
more into that. Also love the name Among the Trees. I love that. So you
Thank you.
just talked a little bit about forest therapy and being a forest therapy guide. So what inspired you to become a forest therapy guide, and what do you love most about this work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have always enjoyed being outdoors. I think as a little kid, I would spend as much time as I can in the forest, in the park, by our homes. And forest therapy kind of popped up as a practice just through finding a book, through talking to a few people, and it kind of just presented itself. And as I dug deeper into the information, I realized that it was something I was unintentionally already doing. I've felt the healing powers of time outdoors. I always felt good being outdoors. I felt like it was a natural space that I wanted to be in. And yeah, so I dug a little bit deeper, jumped into a practice, and discovered that, yeah, again, this is something I've always been doing and something that I would like to offer, or it's a goal that I've had to bring people into the outdoors to experience some of these benefits as well. And yeah, through that training, I realized a lot of the benefits and how I could spin this into a practice and invite people in, or I should say outdoors more often.
Um, Absolutely. Like, I think there's no question that there's so many benefits from being outside. I mean, anybody that goes outside, goes for a walk, you can just feel that. So I think we need to talk about what exactly is forest bathing? The term itself makes you think about, well, like, what are we doing? Are we like actually bathing in the forest? So, for someone who has never heard the term before, what exactly is forest bathing? And I'm going to guess that it doesn't have anything to do with a bathtub.
Yeah, exactly. So generally speaking, you're going to keep your clothes on. So people
Perfect.
always wonder that. And that's something I kind of make a joke about right away. And it kind of, I find, calms people down because they're coming in, maybe they've joined somebody and they're like, I'm going with my buddy, with my friend, with my family, and we're going forest bathing. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So yeah, some jokes and humor always help. So couple things. Forest bathing was a term and a practice coined in Japan in the 1980s. And it was called or is called Shinrin Yoku, which translates basically to absorbing the forest atmosphere, or in sense, bathing in the forest.
Love that.
As
Yeah.
it's brought over to North America, we've kind of coined it forest therapy, which I think is maybe a little easier for people to kind of divulge. And to boil it down simply, I would just say forest therapy is the practice of spending time in nature to calm your mind and to heal your body.
Nice. Nice. So, what's the difference between going for a hike and going forest bathing or forest therapy?
Yeah, so when I think of a hike, when I take customers or guests or people visiting the Rockies on a hike, there's generally an objective. We're saying, hey, we're gonna go hike Stanley Glacier. It's going to be about 4 hours. It's going to be a certain amount of kilometers in elevation. And there's definitely this objective or goal to obtain. Whereas putting that aside and going out on a forest therapy walk or forest bathing for a while, generally we're letting some of those things go. So we're going out for maybe 2 to 4 hours. We're maybe going half a mile to a mile max, maybe a kilometer. And really, we're unplugging, we're letting things go, and we're just seeing what nature can bring to us, really. And really, I'm the guide again, but really, nature is kind of the therapist in this kind of container, if you will.
Nice, nice. That sounds lovely and peaceful. So you said, up to a kilometer or so. So obviously they're not spending the entire time walking. Can you like give a little bit more on what someone will experience during a typical session?
Yeah, for sure. So we generally meet at a trailhead, which is decided upon. It's usually a trailhead or a forested area or even park setting that's a little bit off the beaten track. So you're not going to see all of the crowds that you would at some of the places in the Banff area or Canmore area. We typically head out. Again, I encourage people to unplug, throw your phone in your backpack, turn it off, tuck it away in your pocket. We head out and we're always on really accessible trails. So areas that people can, slow things down. They're able to get through easily. We're not climbing over rocks or boulders or over big roots. And then we kind of slow things down. We take in like a mindfulness moment where I get people to settle and just to kind of start to connect into their senses. So their smell, their eyesight, what they're hearing. And I find that just kind of like lets people settle into the space a little bit more. And then we move into some invitations, which I really kind of spin them based on what I'm feeling or sensing from the area or the individuals. And that can be anything like sit for a while, gaze at the clouds. What are you noticing? Or go out for a walk, discover some treasures and bring them back. And then we talk about them. There's some circle time, which is an opportunity for people just to kind of express how they're feeling or what they're noticing or what they're finding, which is always optional too. People can pass. And then usually after about the 2 to 4 hours, whatever time we decide upon, we finish things up with a tea basically. And I find that just kind of rounds things out and helps people kind of settle in, relax, and kind of just kind of process anything else that might have basically come up or what they've maybe discovered over the walk. And then they're kind of set off on their way. They head home and head off to their other adventures.
Nice. Uh, as much as we probably don't all like to admit it, I think we could all use a little bit of quiet time in the forest and away from our phones for sure. Um, so what do you think surprises people, or have you had anybody tell you something that has sorry, pardon me, that has surprised them during their first experience? Like maybe they've had some misconceptions about it before they tried it. Like, what do you have any examples of those big surprises that people have had?
Yeah, for sure. It's really neat because you get people of all walks of life, all ages, different types of groups. People come in. Usually, somebody in the group knows a little bit more than the others, or people are arriving for the first time. And I really encourage people to come in with an open mind or a beginner's mindset. And people, once they're settled in, after about 30 minutes to an hour, some cool things start to come out. People will say things like, "Oh, I feel really relaxed," can kind of be one end of the scale, where I can have people in the middle kind of starting to say, "Hey, I haven't done this in a while. I'm really feeling like a child again," or, I haven't, when's the last time I've just played in the soil or traced a leaf kind of thing. And then, sometimes at the end of the experience too, some really cool things have come out. I've had people, sharing really important details, or, they've become really close with the group that they've come out with. Yeah, there's always a really interesting discoveries that kind of take place, and it can be anything from really minute things to really mind-blowing kind of opportunities. And it's really, you know, um, it's up for the individual to discover, I find.
This is sounds like such a great way to, experience the Rockies differently, right? A lot of people come here and they need to get from place to place. We've seen all these places on Instagram. We, feel this pressure to see all of these places. And I love when people can do an experience that still has the spectacular views, but, allows them to slow down. So, why do you think so many people struggle to slow down? I kind of alluded to, like Instagram and social media and all of that. What are your thoughts on, why people struggle to slow down when they're traveling?
Yeah, I think, and I do it myself too. So, I'm going to a new place. I've heard or read about all of these things that should be seen, or the pictures that are required. And so you kind of make a list of, like, with check boxes, and it's like, oh, I need to go here. We need to do this on that afternoon. And the next morning we'll be here. And there's all these opportunities and experiences to take in. And it can be slightly overwhelming. You're going in with that list,
For
and
sure.
you want to do it all. But as you arrive in certain places throughout the world, you discover, oh wow, it's a lot busier here than I maybe expected, or the rental car or parking. And so some of those list items start to, like, not get checked. And I think even within travel, that can maybe just get a little bit stressful in itself. But as a whole, I think people, yeah, can really benefit from unplugging for a while and just, like, allowing themselves to take in, these, I want to say, ecosystems. So again, wherever you're traveling, if it's Banff and Canmore, just allowing yourself to unplug. And I actually hear that from a lot of people. So, I might be doing a hike with them, a traditional hike, or I've met them a few days in from their vacation. And, they say, oh, I've done all these things. And at some point they usually say, oh, I wish I could take more time to just, like, be here and just kind of enjoy the healthy forest ecosystems. And yeah, I think forest therapy, forest bathing can be one of those things that allows people just to take a step back and enjoy.
I totally agree with that. And, I have even my own personal example. So we went to Italy and for Easter, and we had all these lists of things to do. And because our kids are getting a little bit older, we had incorporated like some places to go. They wanted to see Pompeii. We were going to go to all these places.
Mhm.
And then we got to Rome at the end, and we were, again, list of the places that we wanted to see and show them and stuff like this. And that was a little bit different than what a typical trip for us would be, whereas we might skip a lot of those like must see places and spend the day hiking or biking. Um, and I just got the sense from the family overall that everybody was like, eh. it's fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is Italy. How are we not having the best time ever? And we happened to be walking to the Colosseum and it was very busy. And I asked the kids, like, what are you feeling about this trip? Like, I feel like you guys aren't maybe enjoying it as much as some of our other trips that we've taken, where we've skipped all of these, must-see places. And they both said to me, you know, in our past trips, we've done all these things, and maybe they complained at the time, but they're like, we spent the day out hiking, or we spent the day, which is still that like a, goal in doing these hikes, but we spent the whole
Hmm.
day in nature. And, my daughter was like, I don't feel like we did anything really adventurous on this trip. Whereas normally we're like biking and hiking and doing all of these other things. And so it was really interesting to see even them pick up on I don't want to rush from place to place. I don't want to
Yeah.
just be at the places where everybody else is. And even as a family, we get to enjoy that time together as well, like being in nature and talking about random things. So, yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And it was a good, like, reminder to like step back and like, okay, we need to like incorporate more of that in what we're doing again, because as they got older, it
Hmm.
was like they were learning about these things, either through books. And so we were like, oh, we're going to show them this, we're going to show them this, and we're going to show them that. And then you're like, okay, maybe we need a better balance on that. So back to
Yeah,
forest bathing.
that's a really good inspiration, or like a good kind of like aha moment for you
Yeah,
to realize. Yeah, that's awesome.
it really was. And so, yeah, we're going to spend a little bit of time just even in Jasper this summer and camping to make sure we also include some of that in our summer. But back to forest bathing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the different experiences that you offer?
Yeah, in terms of among the trees, so forest bathing has been a niche for the company. It has enabled us to meet different types of groups. So, family groups coming out, maybe connecting in the Rockies again, someone coming from Switzerland and meeting their son that's studying at the University of Calgary, and they kind of met out in the mountains, and were able to come out on this trip, and it was a really neat bonding experience for the two of them. So that was a little bit more intimate. I've taken out some bridal groups, so bigger parties where they all already know each other, and they've had some really cool moments sharing. They're out for fun, they're looking for an experience, but then there's some really deep connection within that walk too. I remember um, the one the one girl had also lost her parent recently, her father, and we were like midway through the walk, and they were having some really cool inspirations and moments. And she went off for a bit. I let them sit and kind of just find a sit spot, find a tree, hang out for a while. And she ended up coming back to the sharing group later. And she said, I was just reflecting on my father and this loss that had happened a couple months ago. He was a really big golfer, and she's like, I was thinking about him and I looked down, and right beside her happened to be a golf ball. And we were
Crazy.
just in the middle of the woods kind of thing where you would never really find a golf ball. And she was just like, she was in tears at that point and was just like, wow, like, I don't know how this has happened, but this is a really special moment. The whole group is now in tears. I'm feeling really special that I get to, be part of this kind of thing. And they ended up wrapping up the event and, heading off to some more experiences. But it's always really cool to see what arrives. And again, what nature has in store for us is can always surprise us. Yeah.
Oh, that's what a crazy experience to be a part of as well with that. I love when things like that happen. Okay, so you kind of touched on a few different types of groups that you had. Who do you think is these experiences are best suited for? Do people need to be hikers or outdoor enthusiasts? Is this something families can enjoy? If you can just kind of touch on that a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. I would say forest bathing, forest therapy walks can be for anybody. So again, they're accessible. If I know who the group is, if we're, chatting upon booking an outing, I would look at the group, the dynamics, and decide on what trail and where we might go. We have the opportunity to do this through the national park or through Canmore as well, or even Kananaskis. And we find accessible trails for people to move through, and areas that can kind of take them into these ecosystems that are unique. It could be a family that comes out together. I end up catering it a little bit if it's has young ones involved, just so that we can kind of like have a funner atmosphere. The invitations are maybe a little bit more shorter and explorative. Um, I decided based on the group, but you can bring in people who are retired, who are just looking for, a shorter walk. Um, Really, forest bathing is really great for everyone because of the accessibility. And again, there's benefits for everyone.
Do you do mostly like private tours with one group, or do you join like different groups from like, say, different families or people who don't know each other? Could it be a mix of people? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so generally their private groups would be the bulk of the booking, but there is some platforms that you can book among the trees through, and those would allow you to come on more of I want to say a public walk. And then occasionally we do post community walks, as I would call them, and that's more of, you signing up or the participants signing up, and then it can be a mixture of participants coming from all walks of life and some visitors, some people just locally in Canmore.
Well, that's great. Great. Because, like, even solo travelers, right? If somebody wants to do that and doesn't have a group to do it with, that they can sign up and do these with other people. Uh, would you say you need to be, spiritual or mindful or particularly connected to nature to enjoy this experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sometimes people might wonder that, like, ah, that's not me. I'm, not into the woo woo, or
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
spiritual yet, kind of thing, or I was and I'm
Yet.
not anymore, kind of thing. And I wouldn't say so. I think, nature is around us. Uh, in some context, whether you live in a big city, there's still a park down the street. Maybe you have some house plants on your deck. I think nature is close to us all. We, share this natural world. So I don't think that you need to be spiritual, but I do think that you need to come in with an open mind because you just want to walk in and just, those benefits really are there for people who are like, I'm okay to like step out of my comfort zone a little bit and maybe be a little bit more childish today and open to see what could come out. Yeah.
I f- feel like most people could, stand to be a little bit more playful. And that's exactly, I think, for anybody that's skeptical is having that open mind. So, what should guests know before booking? What should they bring? Any of those types of things,
Yeah, I always think with anything in the Banff area, the Canadian Rockies, it's always good to book ahead to do your research.
especially in the
Um,
summer.
Especially in the summer. We're going into the summer months now, and things are really starting to pick up, which is exciting. But it's also, if there's something you want to do, you got to kind of hop on it. Um, in terms of things to bring, not a lot, but I always encourage people to bring a light backpack so you can carry maybe, a water bottle or a beverage with you. Sometimes people will bring a notebook. They want to write down some things that have come up. I say bring a sit pad or even a yoga block, or even an extra jacket or layer just to sit down on, because we do some hanging out in the forest. And generally, I'll provide sit pads too, but it's a good thing to bring. And then just like common necessities. So dress for the weather for the day. Again, the Rocky Mountain weather can change abruptly. So I always say make sure you have an extra layer, and also just sunscreen or bug spray, whatever kind of the day is, the daily weather's predicting. And that's
Yeah, that
really
makes a lot
kind
of
of it.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
not too much. Um, Thankfully, we haven't seen any bugs out there yet, but we'll see what kind of
been
summer
pretty
we have.
good. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like travelers to know?
Yeah, I think there's so many offerings in the Rocky Mountains. It's really
Yeah.
exciting. Even as a local living here, I still find that there's so many opportunities and so many places to explore. And they can be, the mainstream items like hanging out, checking out Johnson Canyon or the Lake Louise Lakeshore, or to getting off the beaten path and finding, a different hike through Larch Valley or, Sentinel Pass or Skokie, to finding these unique niche experiences like fat biking or snowshoeing or a forest walk as well. So really check it out. really ask yourself what it is that you feel is going to benefit you or give you the full experience of the Rockies. Or
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's so many opportunities for people to not just do what everybody's doing. Like, obviously, we have Lake Louise and we have Moraine Lake, but there is a way to balance out your trip so that, you can do all of these things. You can have some quieter times. You can, maybe you go to Lake Louise and you feel overwhelmed by the crowds and then, step back, do something different that allows you to be more in nature. All right. So I have some rapid fire questions. I just like to
rapid
share some
fire. Okay, I like it.
share some local information. So your
Amazing.
favorite hike in the Canadian Rockies?
I'm gonna say favorite hike in the Canadian Rockies, Sentinel Ridge.
Nice. What is your favorite restaurant? Can be Canmore or Banff.
I'm gonna say two because I couldn't pick one. So I'm gonna say Shoku in Banff or Ramen Arashi in Canmore.
Nice. One in each place. There you go. Favorite paid activity in Banff or Canmore?
Horseback riding or snowshoeing on top of the world by
Yeah,
White Mountain Adventures.
nice. Sunshine Meadows up there.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could take a first-time visitor to just one place in the Canadian Rockies, where would you take them?
The Skokie backcountry.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful back there. You get to see
Yeah,
so many layers.
absolutely. And one common mistake visitors make when planning a trip here.
Overbooking themselves.
Yeah. Not taking the time to take it in. Forest
Yeah,
therapy.
exactly. Well, just don't be so busy. There's so many neat
Yeah,
places to just like wander a bit and check things out and discover, you know.
yeah. And I think important for people to realize is you're never going to see it all. So it's
Hmm.
really okay. Like you're never going to see every lake. You're not going to go on every hike. It's okay to take like an entire day and do a hike and just enjoy being out in nature. To be honest, you're not going to miss much if you see 8 lakes instead of 14. Like it's
Yeah, for sure. But you are gonna miss out if you get back from your travel and you're like, oh, I wish we just hung out. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean a forest bathing walk necessarily, but just spending some time on Banff Ave and people watch for a bit. Find
Yeah.
a nice park somewhere and have a picnic with your
Yeah.
family or your group. And yeah, just really take in the atmosphere.
Walk by the river, go on a rafting tour, down the Bow River. Like there's just like really there's just so many options, which I
It is
understand why
endless.
people start to feel overwhelmed. And I mean, I say it too, I'm like, I live here and I haven't done everything. So please don't expect that you're going to come here and
Yeah.
like check it off.
Yeah, exactly. How long I've lived here too, and there's still places I have not checked out. I
Yeah,
definitely want to go, but
I know.
yeah, I just haven't checked it out because it's endless. It's amazing.
Well, and it's not even the new places that I want to go. It's also all the places I want to go back to.
Yeah,
Like I was saying to my husband Dan, and I was like, I feel like I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, it's
yeah.
not just that I want to do all these things, it's that I also want to go back and do all of these other things that I've done. There's
Yeah,
never enough
exactly.
time.
I know the feeling for sure.
I have a list. I always have a list. He's always like, okay, so summer's here. What's on your list this year?
Yeah,
What are we
pull
what
the
are we
list
doing?
out again. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I like it.
All right. Scott, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we wrap up, where can listeners learn more about Among the Trees? Where can they book an experience? Share the details.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Among the Trees Canada, and then also our website, amongthetreescanada.com. You can do full booking there. You can drop me a contact. You can direct message me on Instagram, and we can always start a discussion there as well.
Perfect. All right. Again, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Celine. I hope you have a really great summer, and yeah, hope to see you on the trails.
Sounds good. I loved this conversation because it is such a good reminder that a great trip to Banff does not have to mean doing absolutely everything. Yes, Lake Louise and Moraine Lake are beautiful. Yes, the gondolas, cruises, hikes, and scenic drives are all worth considering. But some of the best travel moments can also happen when you slow down, step away from the crowds, and let yourself actually be in the place you came all this way to visit. Forest bathing might not be the first thing you think of when you picture a Banff or Canmore trip, But that is also what makes it so special. It is accessible, calming, and a completely different way to experience the mountains. I'll link Among the Trees in the show notes so you can learn more about Scott's forest bathing walks. You can also find them at amongthetreescanada.com and on Instagram at amongthetreescanada. Thank you so much for listening to the Banff Travel Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, happy trip planning, and I'll see you out on the trails.